to the Wandering Dotterel.
This is not a dream.
The way that I've learned how to view toxic cycles is like a cesspool of problems. It can be a combination of toxic behavior, violence, intimate partner violence, addiction, making excuses for addiction, and scapegoating someone.
What?
And narcissistically controlling that person, manipulating them into doing things that they don't want to do.
Huh?
What I've seen over the years is how people change in relationships when the relationship is toxic, if it's moved too fast. If there was abuse as a child before they get into an adult relationship, we're talking about intimate partner violence with someone that you're having a relationship with. I have literally seen many times individuals' looks change.
Huh?
Their eyes go black with their hands out in front of them and attack their partner, throwing them down on the floor, kicking them, punching them, saying things to demean them, and then later saying it was your fault, it was the other person's fault, when the whole time they were the attacker. Not only have I been aware of the toxic cycles in my own life and the toxic cycles of those around me that I was associating with, and family members, by seeing and hearing the sarcasm, by seeing the shift in their behavior, by seeing them become withdrawn, and everyone jumping ship because they were no longer able to handle the toxic situation. People naturally weed out individuals that are in these toxic environments or these toxic situations around people who are controlling and abusive. They don't want to be part of it. They don't want to help that person. Other factors of manipulative control are things that I've seen personally. Take, for instance, one Christmas that my partner at the time had missed. They had stayed gone, and a knock came to the door about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Uh-oh.
And as I opened it, a curse word came out. And I was angry because it was 4 o'clock in the morning and this person had skipped out on Christmas, even though they had small children in the mix. And the next thing you know, I'm being thrown to the wall and having 151 Bacardi rum poured in my face, poured down my throat,
Huh?
in my eyes.
Ow!
And it was all over the front of my face and my chest. And I was instantly intoxicated. And it was a shock to me because I started vomiting and convulsing. And they still attacked me after that, throwing me down and burning me in the face with their cigarettes.
What?
All because I asked where the heck they were in an angry tone with a curse word. And it was not my fault. It was actually nobody's fault except for the attacker, except for the individual acting the way they acted. It was unquestionably wrong. Another aspect of toxic cycles and the cesspool of toxic behavior is coercive control and manipulation. When toxic behaviors are forced onto someone else and they have no other choice but to listen because they're in fear of the outcome, and the unfavorable behavior becomes worse. There might be illegal activity involved. There might be abuse involved. There might be physical control or demands. There might be intimate partner forced activity, sexual activity against someone's will. And then there's the fear, the threats, intimidation, and also bodily harm. When a person exerts control over someone else, it's toxic. They might do this through an email, through a text, by forcible action, through medical care.
What?
Or the way the records are handled. And you might say, that's unbelievable, that doesn't happen, but it does. When I was young, my parents started to manipulate me and coerce me into doing things that I knew was wrong. Take, for instance, when my mother would pull up to the gas station. And at that time, the gas stations had liquor stores inside also, because a lot of the places were mom and pop liquor stores. And you could fill up gas and get your oil checked and get your windshield cleaned, and a kid could run inside and pay for the gas. When I was old enough to run inside and pay for the gas, I was also old enough to buy lottery tickets and alcohol and cigarettes. And it was systematically controlling me in a way that I felt there would be a fight, an argument, because of the way my mother manipulated me into doing what she said. And eventually that turned into me drinking with her, which I refused to do. And she would get very angry at me and start screaming and threatening me. We have to stop pretending that these things are okay. It's not okay to be used for our money, for our body, for our home, for our children, for our food, for our job. All of those things have been held over my head before. And it was so bad that I just thought that was part of life. A bill would sit on the counter and my partner would say, "It's none of your business. I'll pay it when I want to pay it." Or, "Why don't you go get a lobster card?" In other words, go on government assistance instead of having a regular job.
What?
I was told many things throughout my relationships that I had to do it their way and not the way it should be done. I had to do it another way because their way was better. Even though I knew the difference, a lot of the times I went with it. But toxic and coercive control and manipulation are not okay. You don't have to be forced to do things you know are wrong. We need to wake up to the facts that some people think that because they can assert power over someone else and they listen, that it's right. That's not the case. That hurts people. That hurts children. That hurts families. And when people go into rages and try to control someone, that's absolutely not okay. This is your host, the Dingy Dotterel. When thinking about the reasons why people do not wake up to the toxic cycles, is it one, because they don't know that it's going on, or two, they don't want to get involved? And I would say that it's a combination of both.
Huh?
Take, for instance, if a person's being abused in a relationship and they consistently miss their friend group outings, and people start to notice, and they just mock and laugh and have fun with it and say, oh, they're busy. Oh, they're in love. Oh, they're too busy for us. We might as well forget about it. It's unfortunate that those kinds of sarcasm happen in groups of friends. And the reason people don't understand is because nothing's being said about it. People aren't forthright about relationships and about abuse in relationships. They don't just stand up and say, hey, I'm in an abusive relationship, because they fear that there will be a negative outcome. And many times there are. And then on the other hand, there's families that ignore the situation and they say, oh, it's her problem, or oh, it's his problem. It's not my problem. I'm not going to get involved. And that's just unfortunate also. That's a sarcastic way to handle it. That's just ignoring the problem. And that's the reason the problem is so big in our society. And the statistics are staggering on how many people are in abusive, toxic, intimate partner violent relationships. Cynicism about the situation with the toxic environments is another way I've seen people handle it. Being a pastor's kid, I have been told, I don't understand. Not meaning the person doesn't understand, meaning they don't want to get involved. Saying that violence does not happen in relationships, that it's a made-up situation, that people make these things up, and that's not really what's going on. Because sometimes a woman needs a backhand, or sometimes that child needs a good hard spanking with a belt, and they need to be punished, and their ears need to be twisted, and their fingers need to be twisted. I've heard that straight from the horse's mouth, and it's disgusting. It irritates me because this problem has been pushed away, swept under the rug, and ignored by people in authority positions that could help. That could actually say, you know, here's an extra bed, go sleep in it and get yourself together and we'll find you some real help. But instead, they shun the person, they ignore the person, they use sarcasm and cynicism to control the person away from them. They want to force them away from them so they don't have to deal with it. They don't have to come to the realization this is really happening. And then I have seen people literally shrug their shoulders and say, oh, well, that's them, not me. Or the friend that says, you're gonna end up unalived. And don't call me next time it happens. And then I've heard, I just don't understand. Why did you allow this to go on? It's all sickening. If that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will. I appreciate you guys listening. And once again, thank you, Spotify. And we can't forget the scary combination of narcissists and being an addict. Narcissists who are addicts, who use coercive, manipulative, threatening control. I have seen adults use manipulative, narcissistic controlling and coercive behavior because they're narcissists and they want what they want when they want it. And they've got to make sure that their addiction is covered first before anybody else. Even in lieu of children and families, their husband or their wife is suffering. They need medical care. But the narcissist will choose their alcohol over their own spouse and their medical care. And the narcissist will choose drugs over a place to live. They'll manipulate their landlord or their family who's helping them out. Or they will shun their own children to sustain their addiction by lying and cheating and stealing. I've seen it happen. It's unfortunate, but these things happen. There's an air of lack of accountability with toxic individuals, those that want to coerce others into doing things or manipulate them. And the smear campaigns are huge. I'm aware of this. Coming from my background, I've heard smear campaigns against myself. I've heard those people that have witnessed me either change and walk away, what they've said to others.
What?
When I've tried to figure out what was going on and why everyone took a stance against me. And it was because their own operatives failed. Their flying monkeys failed. They failed at coercing me. They failed at trying to come up against me. Their fear tactics wore me out, and I walked away, which made them insecure. And their unhealthiness shined like a beacon in the night. Huh? And it's evident when people are trying to change or they're trying to create change in the airwaves that things happen.
Oh, yeah.
I was party to a smear campaign that lasted more than 30 years.
Huh?
And you can say, wow, that's unimaginable. That didn't really happen, did it? Absolutely it did. Because of the way I was raised as a small child and no legitimate adults around me wanted to take responsibility for their own behavior, they created a huge smear campaign against me, shaming me, speaking to others in a negative way about me, making sure if I was brought up that there was a slant to the story so that they would not have to take responsibility for their own behavior. And I'm still dealing with this today.
What?
Because it's been evident to me as a mother and a grandmother that there's been a slant on the story long enough that it created followers. Therefore, the followers created their own backstory, which continues to keep the lies and the manipulation and the coercion as in the background. They're not even being brought up. They're not even being dealt with. Nobody thinks that certain things happened because the backstory was covered with lies. But like I've always said, what's done in the dark will come to the light. And I'm not concerned about someone else's behavior. I'm not going to let those backstories of coercive control and manipulation and toxic behavior affect me today, because that's not part of my story. I'm not one much for gossiping. I never really have been. I've never really been out to get anyone and create problems through gossip. I like to stick to the facts and the truth of the story. And I have done things that I'm not proud of, but I've tried to stick to the truth of the matter, which has caused problems for me. And I have seen direct consequences to people who have run smear campaigns on others, where they've tried to coerce and manipulate through toxic sarcasm or cynicism or a bend in the story that has caused huge repercussions for an individual, including myself. Like I said before, a smear campaign that ran 30 plus years, shaming me for something that someone else did in order for them to have their own agenda, which the agenda was unclear. But what I've seen is people who have been confronted with the truth in these situations, in the toxic, coercive, manipulative agenda that I've seen some of these people running. When they get confronted, they jump ship and will ignore the situation for multiple years. They won't contact you. If you end up asking someone how they're doing, you find out they've been saying all kinds of things about you. So be prepared when you're trying to change your outcome and change your direction in life and change the situation from toxic to healthy. Believe me, it will happen. People will jump ship on you and start a whole new story about why you're doing it or what you've done in your past, and all of everything that you've ever done your whole life will become someone else's opportunity to join in a smear campaign. Welcome to the Wandering Dotterel.